look at the angle, look at the street, and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this. But it took me years to get to a point to where I felt comfortable enough to just walk out my house and do a work straight off the top of my head. Jay-Z didn't start going into the booth and start freestyling off the top of his head right off the street. That took years to develop that comfortability
That muscle.
with, that muscle, that mental muscle to spit out the rhymes the way he does. It's the same way with any artist that you talk to. If you don't put in the work, you're not gonna get the results. Nobody is Neo out here. Neo wasn't even Neo. Neo fell on his face the first time he tried to jump across that building. It's the same way with your work. You gotta put in the time and effort. You know what I'm saying? You gotta like do it while nobody's looking. And nobody will be looking when you starting out, trust that.
What is, what time y'all usually get out of here?
We used to get out of here like five.
No, that's what y'all talking about, ain't it? Y'all watching that clock, ain't you?
No, you're not watching that clock.
Niggas better not be going over time.
No,
that's like, hey, I'll wrap this thing down. My man got a question right there. We're gonna make this the last question.
This can be for any one of y'all, but like whenever you like hit like a low point in your career, like didn't feel like doing no art or anything like that. Like, did you ever hit that point, and what kept you motivated?
Oh yeah, like several times. Like I would say about every 7 years, you're gonna have to recreate yourself. You know, every artist goes through cycles. I don't know how many different versions of my work. Every few years, I'll go through some. I got 4 kids. Every time I have a child, my work changes. If I move to another house, my work changes. If I go and have an experience, something traumatic happens, I lose somebody that's important to me. The president gets in office, I don't fuck with him. You know what I'm saying? Like that's gonna affect the work. I spent, when Trump was running for office, I was like, that's Hitler. You know what I'm saying? Like if you know anything about World War II and how Hitler rose to power, same thing happened with Trump. Matter of fact, y'all should be y'all, like all of y'all should be out here putting up warning signs everywhere. You know what I mean? Like we're living in a very uncool time. But you know, what I've gone through the various stages of grief, and now I'm on love. I believe that the counter to this bullshit is love. But the thing is, learning how to express love in a way that people understand. So right now, I'm studying the way people love each other and trying to figure out how to translate that into like work that communicates to people that may not love like I do. You know what I'm saying? So that's another phase that I'm like currently moving towards while I'm working on work that has to do with athletics and politics. So, you know, when you get to a low point, you feel like, you know, what you're doing isn't effective. One, you could be ahead of your time. Timing is very important. Sometimes the way artists think is so ahead of the pack that you have to learn how to slow down and communicate in a way that people understand. You look at, if you follow T.I.'s career, when T.I. first came out, he, as a lyricist, was amazing, but his music wasn't catching on. So he had to go back and reinvent his style in a way where people could actually, one, understand what level that he's speaking at, and just put it in his mixtapes in a way that people could kind of like relate to. And then over time, it got back to the level that he was at when he first started. You know what I'm saying? You gotta like think about your audience. A lot of times people aren't gonna be moving the way you are. Like most artists are extremely intelligent individuals. You consume a lot of things that people don't consume. You think about things in a way that people don't think. So when you try and turn around and have a conversation on the level that you're at, people are like, what the hell are you talking about? So what you have to do is learn how to develop your language again, your visual language, and communicate to people in a way that they can receive it. Never mind how far ahead you are. You could be in 2070, but you still got to communicate like you in 2019. Sometimes like it's 2014. You know what I'm saying? You got to like consider your audience. Always consider your audience. That's one thing I learned. That was the benefit of being in advertisement. You know, timing is everything. When to find out when to drop that joint, when things are happening, you know, be prepared. Have your concepts ready. Have 3 or 4 concepts, 5 or 7.
You know, there's stuff that Fabian has done like 6, 7 years ago that we just now putting out like now. You know, we just kind of held on to it. And you just gotta like really fall in love with the journey. Whether you do something or not, you're gonna get an end result. So you gotta work on the journey. You know, and also I think I'm a big believer in, does anyone meet with other people outside of this class, mentors or anything like that? You know, use your resources. Having no resources is actually makes you very resourceful. Someone you can get in touch with, utilize that. You know, or someone you look up to shoot your shot. I shoot my shot all the time.
Yeah.
You tell me no, I'm gonna show you yes. I'm gonna get in there somehow.
Yeah, I mean,
If there's something I need to figure out, I'm curious about, I'm gonna get it.
the world is local now with the
Yeah.
internet and social media. Like if you see some that and whatever, this is a perfect segue because I was going to ask each one of you, like really you're starting off your reference, starting off, you know, your educating yourself about your reference or how you want to move with this project. Really, you should find like 5 dope artists, dope street artists that is doing the type of work that you foresee yourself wanting to do, and then just studying their style. And then when you study their style, that's going to give you inspiration. Because some people are going to say, you know, you never want to go past that third rail of biting their style, but there's nothing new under the sun. He was just talking about an artist from Atlanta, and because, you know, I'm an art nut, and he is too, we understand that artist's work is heavily borrowed from a gentleman by the name of Keith Haring. You know what I'm saying? And Keith Haring painted in the 60s and 70s. You know, so I mean, there's styles that can be, you know, regenerated, and, you know, the copyright laws are that, you know, you can use someone's work up to 70%. So 30% of the work has to be changed. But whatever you change, you know what I'm saying, again, you're looking at it as, it might just be for the lab, and you're kind of breaking down the composition of their style and then making it a part of it your own. That's why the process is so interesting to us art people. Boy, what I would say is, now for me as a person who works with the city, bangs my head against the wall with the city, I personally have to go to Miami at the end of the year every year, which is Art Basel, because it's like a big party for the industry. And so all the artists that I work with all over the world, artists from Europe, artists from Ireland, artists from the States, everyone's there that's there. You know, and that's where a lot of the business gets done for the year, really. You know, and so with me, that I go down there and I charge my creative batteries, because coming here, by the time 11 months that went by, I'm just drained, because I'm trying to put so much into the community, and there's nothing here like I want it to be. So like I get frustrated, and it's like, man, I just need to move, because it ain't gonna never happen. But then I go down there and get charged up at the end of the year, and Josh will tell you, I come back like a new man, and we start on new projects. And like really, to be honest with you guys, this project that we're working on is taking us 3.5 years. 3.5 years. That's ridiculous. But as a creative, you're pitching something, and in that moment, you're just like, let's rock, let's go. That's why a lot of these projects in the beginning stages were illegal, because there was no one to get approvals from. No property owner was letting anything go. So you just had to go bomb and do it yourself. And now those same artists, people would kill for them to come and deface their property, but they're vandalizing. So again, like, you got to find your own inspiration, and whatever that is, you just got to keep it, and it's going to be valleys and peaks. Sometimes you're going to be super interested and you want to create, and other times you're going to be so depressed that, you know, what's going on, whether it's, you know, in your life or with employment, even if it's this, projects aren't going the way you want them to, is you got to find that inspiration to keep creating, because in that moment where you really don't want to paint, that's where you're going to do your best work at. And that's really where you got to keep it at. So we appreciate that beautiful question at the end. If you find 5 street artists that you look up, whether it's Shepard Fairey or any of these names that's already known, Tristan Eaton is another one that's catching wreck right now. Fendek is another one. I mean, you have all these artists that's really killing the game all over the world. Tristan Eaton was hired by Starbucks, and he did a full national campaign. I mean, we're talking super money here. But if, again, really the last answer to that, you following the money, that's where your energy is going to run out and your inspiration, because there's not a lot of money there in the beginning to keep it going where that inspiration stay true. But if you following it for true reasons, then you know the inspiration is always going to be there, because at the end of the day, you're getting paid to do what your talent is that was given to you by the creator. So you should always be able to do that, whether it's $1 for the budget or it's $1 million for the budget. You should always be wanting to say, hey, at a bare minimum, I'm sketching, I'm getting this iPad, I'm using Procreate, I'm sketching, I'm doing whatever it is, and then before you know it, you got millions of reference images that people ask you for a job, and you just going through them, hey, you look at this, and then it's already, the work is there, so now you already got a part of the project done because you created so many reference images. So that's what I would say in closing. So we want to thank everybody for their time today. Thank Ms. Darlene. She created this situation through her vast
I hope y'all are
connects.
inspired today.
Oh, can I say, y'all, if y'all get a chance, get on Netflix, get on YouTube, look up
What
Art
was that
Basel.
documentary that you watched the other day?
I can look for it. I can send you the link. Like, it'll take you around the world. You know what I'm saying? If y'all can buy dope shoes and these sweaters for the price that y'all dropping on sweaters, you can get a ticket to Basel and go experience that.
And Professor Carter said that we can actually put together a trip to take you all down there. See, I'm putting that out there on the table.
Where's
So
that?
y'all follow me.
Miami.
Yeah.
Miami. The first week of Miami is the 4th through the. Excuse me, yeah, the 4th through. Well, actually, they start painting like in November because some people process. I mean, you have artists that are more from a fine arts background. It take them like 30, 40 days to do a project. Where someone's more of a street artist, they work quickly because they was worrying about the police running up on them. So they can knock a project out in like 4 days. And again, that matters in the professional world because they need you to be proficient and efficient. You know what I'm saying? Like if it's taking you 6 months to do something, a lot of times people gonna say no because they ain't got time for you to create a construction zone at their job for half a year. So you gotta get in and get out. And again, that's where now street artists are eating because they can do 5 projects. For a fine artist, it take them 1, and again, like you losing money.
Yeah,
Does anybody know how to use
perfect
aerosol?
example.
Y'all knew how to aerosol spray can? You?
Super Bowl, the Super Bowl came to Atlanta, and Nike hit Fabian up. 4 days before Super Bowl? Or, no, I'm sorry, probably about like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And there was a big, huge building, a big, huge budget, and a very short amount of time. And because of that street art background, that put him, in the category to be let's work with him. And we was up there and lives in 40 degrees and heat packs in your shoes and, but you got to get the job done. And that, the experience, the research, everything that you've done to ground yourself makes you a better candidate. So that's why I say, take charge of those opportunities to get with mentors, do your research. Don't just rely on Instagram, please.
And put in the work. That's the most important thing. Put in the
Yeah.
work, consistency.
Yeah.
And if you want to practice with aerosol cans, Artist Block has those supplies, shameless plug for your teacher. But if they don't have them, I also sell fine art spray paint as well because you have to be able to source your material. Again, that's a point where the project can fall through the cracks. If you got a week to get something done and you got to wait 2 weeks to get the materials in because you got to order them, you lose out. So again, I have those products here, and it's just about getting this work up, and that is the preferred preferred material choice is spray paint because it's so fast, and you got all these paint buckets and all types of mess all over the place.
But you can also use spray guns with house paint.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it takes a little longer, but you can also use those to do large buildings as well. You just got to think about what's going to look good and the amount of time that you have. Because every project presents a different challenge.
Yeah.
But the more, like you said, the more you're used to working with different materials, I can work with just about anything. I do house paint, acrylic paint, aerosol, oil, watercolor, charcoal, I can pretty much flex on any medium. Digital, I did a whole series of digital paintings back, man, like almost 20 years
And
ago.
can I ask you another question? And when you're learning to work with new materials, don't you practice with doing techniques?
Yep,
You have to practice using the materials and different techniques.
yep, yep.
It's a process.
Yeah.
Every process is different, and how you create isn't always going to be guaranteed out somewhere. But that's what you learning in the lab is your process, and then you go out and catch a wreck with that after that. So again, we appreciate you guys' time. We appreciate the interest. We hope we didn't
And at
talk
the end of
too
the day,
much.
they don't realize it, but they appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so
that's big
20
opportunity.
years from now, when y'all killing it and y'all painting these massive buildings and stuff and getting paid 6 figures a job, just remember us little people.
That's what I'm saying, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just when y'all talking to Oprah, you know what I'm saying?
I tell them all the time, they gotta take care of me.
I know that's right. All right, well, I
I
appreciate it.
appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Phil.
Thank you. Oh, we need a